Hello, welcome to Book Journey. Today's book is titled The Happiness Advantage: How a Positive Brain Fuels Success in Work and Life. The combination of the words happiness and advantage might be a bit perplexing. According to our common understanding, there is usually another word between them: success. Advantage leads to success, and success brings happiness. This is the logic that most of us follow. We must work hard, improve ourselves, and then break through the fierce competition to become winners. Only then do we allow ourselves to enjoy the joy of success. However, in this book, the author particularly emphasizes that we should not save the feeling of happiness and joy for the last. Happiness itself is an advantage. Only with positive emotions can you truly unleash your potential, and success will come naturally. On this topic, the author of this book is very authoritative. His name is Shawn Achor, and he is one of the main designers of the famous happiness course at Harvard University, or more scientifically speaking, the positive psychology course. More than 20 years ago, when Achor applied to Harvard, he just wanted to take a chance, but he was unexpectedly admitted. During his years at Harvard, he always felt a sense of honor and gratitude, and his academic performance was also excellent. However, he found that not all of his classmates were as enthusiastic as he was. Harvard students are the top talents from all over the United States, and even the world. They have been used to taking the lead in various exams and competitions since they were young. But after the first test at the beginning of their enrollment, 99% of them had to face a cruel fact: they were no longer the top students. This psychological gap, coupled with the fierce competition in the environment full of top talents, made Harvard students a high-incidence group for depression. They rarely realized their own superior conditions but focused more on competition and comparison, thus feeling great pressure. After graduation, Achor stayed at Harvard and became a counselor and teaching assistant. In the following 8 years, he provided psychological counseling for thousands of students and participated in the design of Harvard's most popular positive psychology course. During this process, he also had the opportunity to access a large number of student files, witness the development of students during their time at school, and learn about their destinations after graduation. These rare first-hand materials became Achor's data source, supporting his research to explore the correlation between positive emotions and excellent academic and professional performance. After leaving Harvard, Achor became a professional advocate for positive psychology. Since 2008, he has provided training for more than 1/3 of the Fortune 500 companies. His research findings have been featured in well-known media such as the Harvard Business Review, the New York Times, Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, and Fortune. His book, The Happiness Advantage: How a Positive Brain Fuels Success in Work and Life, has also become a phenomenal bestseller, helping many businesses and individuals discover their workplace potential from positive emotions. Positive advantage. Next, let's start with the core concept of this book. What is the positive advantage? Achor gives a simple and clear definition: positive emotions can improve performance, inspire achievement, and give us a competitive edge, which is the positive advantage. The question is, how exactly do positive emotions help us improve performance and inspire achievement? To answer this question, psychologists have conducted many studies, one of which is very interesting and convincing: a tracking survey. The source of the data for this survey might surprise you. It is actually the diaries of the nuns at Notre Dame. Long-term tracking surveys are a research method in psychology where researchers follow a group of people for several years, even decades, to observe the correlation between their psychological status and life development. The advantage of this type of research is its long time span, which can yield sufficiently reliable macroscopic patterns. However, the drawbacks are also obvious: it takes too long and requires a significant amount of effort and funding. Nevertheless, clever researchers came up with a good way to compress time, which is to mine data from historical records. In this way, they do not have to start tracking from scratch for many years, but can directly look back at people's psychological and life status during a certain period in the past. But what kind of historical records would document such content? Coincidentally, the Notre Dame convent required its students to keep diaries every day, not just to record events, but also to write down their daily feelings and thoughts. This provided ideal material for psychological research. Researchers found 180 old diaries of nuns born before 1917, coded the emotional information expressed in these diaries, and investigated the nuns' life experiences. The survey results showed that 90% of the 25% of nuns with the most positive emotional states in their diaries lived to the age of 85, while only 30% of the 25% with the most negative emotional states reached that age. There was a clear correlation between the nuns' emotional states and their lifespans. Psychologists thus speculated that the more people can experience positive emotions, the better their health conditions will be, and happier people are more likely to live longer. The conclusion that positive emotions are beneficial to our health has also been confirmed in recent brain science research. A healthy body means abundant energy, which, of course, is conducive to our workplace performance. In addition to this, what other advantages can positive emotions bring us? There is a very influential scholar in the field of positive psychology named Barbara Fredrickson. She found in her research that positive emotions also have the function of broadening thought pathways and enhancing creativity. If you have some knowledge of brain science, you will know that negative emotions have played an important role in the course of human evolution. For example, when our ancestors encountered a fierce beast on the grassland, the brain received a danger signal, and the body would enter an excited state under the influence of cortisol to fight or flee. This rapid adjustment mechanism increased our survival rate in a hostile environment. However, negative emotions also bring a problem. They narrow our thinking, allowing us to see only the two options of fighting or fleeing. As for whether there is a better third solution, our brains, under great stress, do not have time to think. Encountering a fierce beast on the grassland is extremely rare in modern people's lives, but the narrowing of thinking caused by stress happens quite often. You can observe people around you. When criticized, they hastily defend themselves. When arguing with others, they blurt out hurtful words. When seeing the market trend going down, they panic and sell their assets in a hurry. These irrational actions are modern versions of the fight or flight response. Positive emotions, on the other hand, can help us overcome the narrowing of thinking and see more constructive possibilities. This is because, in a pleasant and relaxed state, our cerebral cortex can process richer information and more creatively establish connections between seemingly unrelated elements. Psychologists have found that students who recall happy times before an exam perform better in the exam. Business people who express more positive attitudes have a higher probability of winning in negotiations. Researchers also conducted an interesting experiment. They gave a group of doctors candy to trigger their positive emotions. In the subsequent simulated diagnosis, compared with the control group, these cheerful doctors were less likely to fall into mental stereotypes, had higher diagnostic efficiency, and were more accurate. All these studies point to the same conclusion: even a small amount of positive emotion can significantly improve our work efficiency and creativity. Choosing a better counterfactual. Understanding the principle of the positive advantage, let's now talk about some methods that can help us establish a positive advantage at work. You might think, I know that positive emotions can improve my work state, but there are just too many annoying things at work. There is always an endless amount of work to do. How easy is it to become positive? In this book, Aker does not deny the pressure of the modern workplace. When he first started providing positive psychology training for major companies, the challenges people faced at work were quite severe. It was right after the 2008 financial tsunami. Every time Aker gave a speech, there were countless worried middle and senior managers in the audience. They had just lost their longtime work partners in the recent layoffs, and everyone was under great performance pressure without seeing any hope. Aker thought that such an audience would be most annoyed by words like happiness and joy, but to his surprise, the response from the audience was very enthusiastic in almost every speech. Everyone was eager to learn methods to cheer themselves and their teams up. One of the methods Aker recommended to them is to find a better counterfactual. What does counterfactual mean? Simply put, it is a hypothesis we use as a reference when interpreting the current situation. This might sound a bit confusing, so let me give you an example. Aker often asks the audience in his training such a question. One day you walk into a bank, and there are 50 other people in the bank besides you. At this moment, a robber bursts in and fires a shot at the crowd, hitting your right arm. The next day, when you describe this incident to your friend, would you say you are lucky or unlucky? This question might sound a bit silly. Going to the bank in good health and getting shot in the right arm by a robber, how could one feel lucky? In Aker's training, unlucky is the answer given by most people, about 70%. So why do the remaining 30% of people feel lucky? Aker continued to ask, and at this point, people gave explanations based on counterfactuals. Those who felt unlucky would say, I didn't have to go to the bank that day, or I could have gone to another bank. Why did I happen to be at the scene of the robbery? In this explanation, not going to the bank or going to another bank is the counterfactual chosen by this audience member, that is, the alternative scenario he imagines to assess and interpret the current situation. And the audience members who felt lucky had a completely different counterfactual. They would say, fortunately, the bullet didn't hit my heart. The fact that I could see my friend the next day and talk about this incident means that I escaped safely. It's so lucky. I might not have been able to leave that bank otherwise. You see, everyone faces the same reality, but due to different counterfactuals chosen, people's assessments of reality can be completely opposite. This principle may sound simple, but for psychologists, the discovery of this psychological mechanism of counterfactuals is very important because it means that by actively constructing counterfactuals, we can train ourselves to view the world with a more optimistic perspective. This does not mean that we should ignore the various obstacles in reality, but rather, while acknowledging reality, give more priority to those positive possibilities. Because every time we choose a positive counterfactual, we are arming ourselves with a positive advantage. The way we perceive the outside world actually shapes our inner state. Making good use of the Tetris effect. In addition to choosing positive counterfactuals, Aker also talks about another way to cultivate a positive mindset in his book, which is to activate the Tetris effect in your brain. You must have played Tetris, where you stack the differently shaped blocks falling from the sky into neat rows. Each time a row is completed, the blocks disappear and turn into reward points. Harvard Medical School once conducted a study, paying volunteers to play Tetris for several hours a day for 3 consecutive days. Whenever Aker mentioned this experiment in class, the students would regret that they had missed such a good opportunity to get paid for playing games. However, the volunteers who participated in the experiment were troubled several days after the experiment. Almost all volunteers reported to the researchers that they were playing Tetris even in their dreams, and when they were awake, they couldn't help but view the world around them through the logic of Tetris. When they saw a row of products on the supermarket shelf with 2 boxes taken away by customers, they would step forward and move 2 boxes from the back row to fill the gap. When they saw the unevenly arranged pavement bricks on the sidewalk, they would feel very uncomfortable. Some people would even fantasize, while looking at the city skyline, that a long strip of blocks would fall from the sky and fit perfectly between 2 buildings. This strange illusion is the so-called Tetris effect. Its formation principle includes 2 levels. On the visual level, staring at the Tetris game interface for a long time leaves a mark on the volunteer's visual system, similar to when we are flashed by a camera and a blue-green spot is left in our field of vision for a short time. This phenomenon is called cognitive afterimage by brain scientists. The cognitive afterimage caused by Tetris has a specific shape, which makes us unconsciously pay attention to things that are similar in shape to the blocks. On a deeper level, prolonged gaming also changes the way neurons are connected in our brain. Researchers observed that in the brains of volunteers who played for 3 consecutive days, a new neural pathway was formed, which distorted their perception of reality. It may seem that the Tetris effect is just a trivial scientific discovery, but in fact, this effect can not only explain the minor inconvenience brought by prolonged gaming, but also explain many mental stereotypes that long-term experiences create in our brains. Aker once worked for KPMG for a year, and his task was to help auditors rebuild positive emotions. One of the main tasks of an auditor is to verify a company's tax forms. They spend 8 to 14 hours a day searching for errors in the forms and have developed a keen eye for spotting mistakes. However, the problem is that this habit of thinking unconsciously spills over into their personal lives. When they return home, they tend to focus on the lowest grade in their child's report card, while ignoring the excellent performance in other subjects. During meals, they can't help but make sarcastic comments about the dish that is undercooked, without realizing that the rest of the dishes are quite tasty. One auditor even confessed to Aker that he had made a list during his break of all the mistakes his wife had made in the past 6 weeks, hoping she would correct them. Aker had to persuade the auditor not to do so, otherwise his wife might have become his ex-wife. Similar to the situation of auditors, Aker found that practitioners in the legal profession also faced similar troubles. In a lawyer's work, being able to keenly identify logical flaws in the opponent's argument and then sharply refute them one by one is the key to winning the case for the client. However, this skill can easily cause conflicts in daily life. Aker has also provided emotional counseling for many lawyers who sheepishly told him that they still seem to be accustomed to using the same argumentative style from the courtroom at home. For example, they would question their child, "If it really ended at 10:30 as you explained, then please explain why you were 15 minutes late coming home compared to the agreed time." Years of legal training have made their thinking meticulous and demanding. Since they are always focused on minor flaws in litigation, lawyers are also more likely to overestimate the severity of problems in daily life. As a result, in the eyes of their loved ones, they sometimes appear overly anxious. Auditors and lawyers are high-income professionals, yet their probability of suffering from depression is much higher than that of ordinary people. Aker analyzed that this is due to the Tetris effect caused by their daily work. In fact, few people in any industry can be completely free from the influence of occupational habits. Athletes usually like to compete with others. Financial industry workers are always assessing various risks, and corporate managers often tend to be more controlling with their children. Within reasonable limits, these behaviors are not really problematic. However, the Tetris effect can easily get out of control, leading people to fall into the state of when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, which can cause harm to themselves and those around them. You might be a little puzzled at this point. Didn't Aker say that the Tetris effect can help us cultivate a positive mindset? How come it all sounds like negative impacts? That's true. The Tetris effect that can reverse the negative impact and help people build a positive mindset is still the Tetris effect. Only this time, we must not succumb to the mindset of collecting negative information, but actively train our brains to seek out opportunities and ideas that increase our chances of success. So, how exactly should we train ourselves? Aker provides a practical method in his book that is very simple and only requires 5 minutes a day. He suggests that we write down 3 good things that happened in the past 24 hours in our diary. These 3 things can be very ordinary, perhaps a moment that made you laugh, a sincere compliment from a colleague, a shared time with family, or a vague expectation for the future. What is the purpose of writing down 3 good things? It is actually a deliberate exercise for a positive mindset. By searching for 3 good things every day, your brain will learn to pay more attention to those experiences worth celebrating. Just as an auditor searches for errors in a form, the practice of searching for good things will gradually create a Tetris effect, making it easier for you to notice the good things in life, and thus improve your daily emotional experience. This exercise is simple, easy to do, and quite interesting. After listening to this book, you can give it a try. Change begins with small steps. Counterfactual and Tetris effect are 2 tools for building a positive mindset. With a positive mindset, the next step is to seek positive change. Aker shares a real case in his book. Since the 1980s, the crime rate in New York City in the United States has been soaring. The police tried various strong measures for more than a decade with little effect. Finally, a group of officials remembered the famous broken windows theory in psychology. You probably also remember that this theory states that in an abandoned building, if one window is broken, it will trigger a series of more serious destructive behaviors. People will break more windows, graffiti on the walls, and eventually the security of the entire neighborhood will deteriorate. The broken windows theory tells a story of chaos leading to more chaos. But can this story be told in reverse? Can creating a small bit of order in chaos lead to more order? The officials in New York City thought it was worth a try. They started with the subway, cleaning up graffiti and repairing windows. At first, many citizens were puzzled by this move. Ignoring more serious crime issues, what was the point of fixing windows? It was like the Titanic hitting an iceberg and still scrubbing the deck. Despite such doubts, the municipal officials continued to push forward with their plan. They put in a lot of effort and finally cleaned up all the subway lines. Interestingly, the data showed that various criminal activities in the subway, from fighting to robbery, significantly decreased. When this window repairing work was extended to the entire city, the long worsening crime problem was actually curbed. Using the broken windows theory in reverse really worked. This incident was very encouraging for positive psychologists like Aker, because it meant that positive change could spread. Even if the initial action was insignificant, we could still expect a surprising outcome. Aker recalled a similar attempt he had made when he was a counselor at Harvard. One day, the school's fire department reported to him about a student whose dormitory was so messy that it posed a fire hazard. Aker visited the student and found his room littered with pizza boxes and empty drink bottles, with newspapers and textbooks scattered all over the floor. It was a complete mess. The student was also very embarrassed, but the thought of cleaning up such a huge mess would make him emotionally overwhelmed. What should be done? Aker came up with the idea of drawing a 30-centimeter circle on the student's desk. He told the student that the task for the day was to tidy up the items within the circle and keep it clean for the next day. Since the 30-centimeter circle was not very large, the student managed to meet Aker's requirement. The next day, Aker drew another circle in his room with the same rules. In this way, Aker continued to guide the student for 2 weeks, 1 circle a day, and the student's dormitory became spotless. During this process, the student also developed the habit of keeping things tidy and gained a stronger sense of control over his life. The story of this student is similar to the New York City government's reverse use of the broken windows theory. Their essence is the change caused by focusing on small details. Aker reminds us that change can really start anytime and anywhere. As long as you break down the daunting challenge in front of you into small enough parts, you can start with small circles and gradually expand the scope of victory inch by inch. As long as you make a small change every day, the distance between you and success is likely much shorter than you imagined. The key 20 seconds for developing habits. Finally, regarding how to make positive changes, Aker also shared a little trick with us, which is to make good use of the key 20 seconds. When it comes to making changes, many of us set a series of annual goals at the beginning of the new year, including developing various good habits and getting rid of bad ones. However, in the following weeks, our plans often fall by the wayside and are only remembered again in the next new year. Why is it so difficult to change habits? Aker tells us that this is because when we set plans, we overly rely on our willpower. In fact, the inability to change habits is not due to our weak willpower. Willpower is originally an extremely scarce resource. It can help us make temporary decisions but is not sufficient to support us in overcoming long-term difficulties. To truly change habits, we need to adopt a smarter strategy. In Aker's view, the method of changing habits is actually very simple. Create a quick access channel for good habits that can be reached within 20 seconds, and set up numerous obstacles for bad habits. The 20 seconds here is a number estimated by Aker based on his own experience. For a while, Aker wanted to learn the guitar. He confidently made a schedule for practicing the guitar every day, but he stopped playing after just a few days. Why? Aker found that it was because he usually kept the guitar in the closet. From the moment he thought about practicing, to opening the closet and taking out the guitar, there was a gap of 20 seconds. During these 20 seconds, his desire to practice gradually cooled down, and he would eventually not take the guitar out. Realizing this, Aker decided to shorten the distance between himself and the guitar. He bought a stand and placed the guitar right in the middle of his bedroom. As long as he wanted to practice, he could reach it with his hand. After that, he easily persisted for more than 20 days and developed the habit of playing the guitar every day. Whether the distance between us and good habits is 20 seconds may vary from person to person, but what is important is that profound change is not the result of a sudden determination, but comes from a cleverly designed lifestyle. In your daily living environment, providing more convenience for good habits will make change come naturally. Conclusion. Well, that's it. I have interpreted the essence of the book The Happiness Advantage, how a positive brain fuels success in work and life for you. Let's summarize. The author of this book, Shawn Achor, is a very influential advocate in the field of positive psychology. He has engaged in positive psychology research at Harvard University and has accumulated rich experience in counseling students over the years. In this book, Achor reminds us that positive emotions can provide us with abundant energy and vigorous creativity, thereby enhancing our workplace performance. To maintain a positive mental state, we can actively construct counterfactuals to make positive interpretations of reality, and use the method of recording 3 good things to help our brains develop the Tetris effect of being good at discovering beautiful things. If you want to make positive changes, a feasible strategy is to start with small things. The key to developing good habits is to create a quick access channel for them within 20 seconds. Positive psychology is a science of practice. Its value does not lie in how much knowledge we have mastered, but in applying this knowledge in practice to bring real changes to our lives. I hope that the content of this book can help you take one more step on the road of self-growth.